Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Maor and I'm a Breatharian Level 3 guide. And today I'd like to answer a very simple question. What is the definition of prana? Because a lot of people call breatharians pranic living individuals. So prana is energy, but energy is kind of like a very wide definition. It's very abstract, right? You have energy in electricity. You have people who say that they can bring in energy. What we're talking about is the type of energy, and I'll give you some examples. Maybe that will simplify it. You know those type of kids that don't really need to eat a lot and have all the energy in the world? And the only reason that they eat is because their parents kind of tell them, you have to eat now. But they're very present and they're very energetic and they enjoy life. They're very excited about life. They are being nourished by prana. Now, the more we grow up, mature, the more we lose that creativity, sensitivity, enjoyment of life. You see, a lot of people think that when you get older, you become fat and lazy because you're older and your body is working inefficiently. But that's not really the case. The case is that people are miserable. And most of them are, of course. It's just because there's more drama, there's less excitement, there's more routine, there's more boredom in our lives. When we turn 30, 40, there's less energy, the body takes more time to heal. So people get kind of depressed with life and they take that depression out on food. So basically every negative emotion can bring a reaction that has to do with emotional eating. It's not only about people who are obese or overweight. It's a normal reaction of people that are getting used to eating the wrong type of food. And that's okay. Everybody goes through that. But when you become more aware of those bad habits and you wish to overcome those bad habits, then what you usually do is you either start fasting, you skip a meal, you start eating high vibrational food like vegetables and fruits or juices, you do detoxes and stuff like that. So prana is basically the type of energy that we already have all the time. But food blocks that energy from arriving into our body. The more we are in our body, the more we're grounded in reality, the more food we take. They say that the stomach is like the second brain. And that's because when the stomach is full, then you don't think too much. You kind of like, you can see the productivity just dive after lunch for most individuals, especially people who work in offices and stuff like that. So you can understand that there's a relationship, a deep relationship between the mind, the mental, and the stomach. When the stomach is full, the mind doesn't work in the same efficiency. When the stomach is empty, suddenly you have more ideas, more creativity. Now, a lot of people think that you have to eat every 7 or 8 hours and you're just blocking the prana from coming in. You have to eat because your body is beginning the process of detoxifying. And that process, especially if you're used to eating a lot, it's uncomfortable. You get this irritation, you get anxious, but it passes. Eventually it passes. Like when you are very, very tired and then the tiredness passes. Or when you're like jogging or when you do abs and it burns like crazy and then it just passes. It just passes when you intend, when you keep on going, when you persist. So the same thing happens with hunger. You just persist and you put your intention and it just goes away. You begin by skipping a meal and then suddenly you skip a whole day and then suddenly you're fasting for 3 or 4 days and everything is okay and So going back to the definition of prana. Prana comes from the East, of course. A lot of yogis use the term prana, life's energy. You can think about it as chi as well. So what else can we do to raise the level of prana in our life? A lot of you that are following me for a very long time, you understand that I like to split the energetic bodies to 4. So on every one of these bodies, we can do something to raise our vibration and they're all connected one to the other. So you already know about the physical body, so let's not go deeper into that. Let's talk about the belief system. In the belief system, you have to cultivate positivity. In other words, you have to catch yourself as you are thinking something negative, as you are blaming someone, gossiping, as you are thinking something that is not aligned with your highest good or the highest good of people that are around you. And how do you do that? You don't have to judge yourself. Just catch yourself as you're thinking, because it happens literally 1,000 times a day. And with time, when you catch it, you notice that you're actually adding another layer of consciousness, of awareness to your thinking. And that layer, with time and persistence, becomes the automatic reaction. In other words, you don't think too much. You become positively or optimistically happy because you already added that layer. So for example, something bad happened to us and we wish to go blame somebody else, and you tell yourself, maybe there's a part here that it was actually my fault. And notice how a shift happens in the mind when we do that. It's like, wait a second, could it be? Have I done something wrong? And your ego wants to say, no, absolutely not, I'm perfect, and it's the other people's fault and stuff. And you're like, wait a second, I can change something. I just took responsibility. I became the bigger person in this. And then you do it often. Slowly your ego doesn't control you anymore. Slowly you see that you are the one that picks how you feel about life. You're the one that picks the different scenarios that you thought were arbitrary in your life. And suddenly they become something more like a conscious creator type of, I would say, scenarios in your life. So that's the mental part. And of course, it takes some practice, but it doesn't take time out of your schedule. It's something that you do automatically as you converse with someone, as you go through the motions of life. Especially when you're feeling sad or lonely or depressed, you ask yourself, why am I feeling these feelings? Because you can really trace back every feeling that we have to a belief that we have. And that's the power of the mental. Because you believe that you have to react in a certain way. You believe that you have to feel in a certain way. Doesn't matter who gave you those thoughts, somebody in the past, or you gave it to yourself, you can also change them. And let's talk about the emotional body. Of course, we can't neglect our emotions, and yet we cannot surrender to them either. And what do I mean by surrendering? We make so much fuss out of things. We try to control things. We try to control scenarios. We try to control people. And then we create more and more drama. And this is exactly what the Buddha said. The Buddha said, stop with the drama. Let me teach you how. I'm not going to wake everybody up, but I can help minimize the human drama. And that doesn't mean that you have to suppress anything like you think that people do. It's not about suppression. It's about admitting that it happened. And it's about learning from it that it happened. Admitting that it happened, being okay that it happened, and then letting it go back to source. Because it doesn't need to ponder around. It doesn't need to be and stay. Because that's just like a demon that's like sucking your energy. When you become that thing, that emotion that you don't want to admit that you're becoming. And the last part, so we said physical is very easy. Mental, emotional, and then there's the spiritual aspect of a high vibration. Oh, I got a mosquito bite. What is spirituality? Isn't it being connected to our inner child? Isn't it being more present in the moment? Isn't it not being in a meditative state for 5 hours a day? Isn't it the actions that we take in life? The things that we want to be, the soul that we are, the understanding that it's a very short journey? Isn't it to try to enjoy? Because we kind of created this place. We kind of decided to come into this place, to enjoy this place, to experience it. And instead of experiencing it, we're drowning in drama that we created for ourselves so we can learn to not drown in drama. I hope this doesn't confuse you too much. But this is basically life. It's our decision. We're the volunteers, we're the ground crew that came here. So try to see it that way and try to evolve from that. And just remember, it's all temporary. It's gonna pass. Trust me, it's gonna pass sooner than you think, and you're gonna look back at it and you're gonna miss it. Like many, many times before. Namaste, my friends. Enjoy life.